Welcome to Inclusive Workplaces, a series amplifying the voices of immigrant movers and shakers in the Finnish workforce. We cover inspiring stories of immigrants in Finland, uncovering strategies to break down barriers, and exploring how companies can build welcoming workplaces. All this amazing content is paving the way for a truly impactful publication that is coming soon. So get ready, because this one is going to be a game changer. But before we dive deep into that world-altering publication, let's talk action. Today's episode focuses on an incredible story on inclusive diversity hiring practices. Through our guest story, you will hear how you can be a champion for creating a more welcoming environment for your fellow international colleagues. Think of yourself as a workplace inclusion ninja, ready to unleash your inner advocate. Welcome, Lukumanu. It's been a while since we've last spoken, so it's good to have you in the studio with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All of us have been busy, just been following our works together here in Finland, which I think is great. But hey, it's a pleasure meeting you again.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's you have such a broad experience in this space, and I'm really excited that our listeners get to kind of hear straight from the horse's mouth, in a sense, that how do we facilitate, open up opportunities, open up doors for other internationals in spaces like this. But before we go diving into that space, maybe you can tell everybody who you are, what's your background, how did you end up here, just to warm everybody up.
Okay, well, my name is Lukumanu Iddrisu, and I'm originally from Ghana. Well, I came to Finland purposely to study in 2014, my bachelor's degree, and ever since I have also continued my study journey into master's studies, and I'm almost 10 years here, and I'm also a citizen of Finland. And I mean, profession-wise, has been a roller coaster starting from the in Finnish you say alata, so from the low level to, I mean, now working as a project manager for the Vast Spouse program, and also a part-time lecturer teaching social media marketing and e-business at Central University of Applied Sciences.
Wow.
So that is me in short.
No, that's really good. You've hit targets that other people are still working towards, and the journey there is definitely. From our previous conversations, I can understand that these are not easy. So starting right from the beginning. As a student, how did you find yourself studying Finnish? Was that part of the program, or how did you get into that space?
Well, actually, I started studying Finnish when I graduated from the University of Applied Sciences. Actually, it was a decision I took because I realized, I mean, during the time, Takura, it was very difficult for us to have access to a lot of opportunities. Hence, without the language, you cannot survive in Finland unless you really want to be you are okay with the menial jobs. So then I decided that hey, I wouldn't continue my education after graduating from the bachelor studies. I would want to really upskill myself by learning the language, and then through that perhaps more doors could open. So then I enrolled into the integration program. We call it in Finnish kotoutumiskoulutus. And that's where, for instance, you are taught the Finnish language from scratch. And then aside being taught the language, you also get to understand the culture of Finns, which I think really played a bigger role in my career, my career transition or journey.
That's good to hear. Like, do you actually use Finnish every day at work, or do you get to use both Finnish and English?
It depends. Often, of course, let's say when I started in Kaupakamari, for instance, I was using Finnish almost every day. So then, to be honest, that was when my vocabulary grew. However, after Kaupakamari, I've worked in Varatila and my team were more international. I use Finnish as and when I'm talking to locals, but I use English daily. And in my line of work currently, I use both English and Finnish, depending on I mean, on the time or who I'm actually talking to.
Yeah, I think that's always the interesting thing for internationals is that language is a barrier to get into work, and then when you do get into work, you get to use both languages in any case. So the more languages that we have, the better, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. I think that's a great. So as you enter now into the working life, you've studied Finnish. You probably got your testi. Did you do that how long did that take you? In a year? Longer?
Okay, well, so when I finished the integration program, I think the next IQ test was just 2 months or so, and I registered and I passed.
Wow.
Yeah. So
2 months.
yeah,
That is great, man. That's an awesome achievement. Finnish language is not. It's considered it's one of the hardest languages. So to hear that it's possible, because people have often a fear of the language because the general aura is not. Finnish is super hard, and it's good to hear and that there are a lot more people that are diving deep into it and seeing that really it's not that much more complicated than our own mother tongues, essentially. If we were to put Finns in our home countries and in our areas, I think they would also find our languages hard, right? I mean...
well, in a sense, yes. But I always want to base it more on the individual level or perspective. Everything is dependent upon you. If you want to believe something is difficult, or already you have limited yourself. But if you believe there is that possibility, you can learn. Of course, I believe it's all the mindset. Indeed, Finnish as a language, the logic is very different than we know. But to navigate your way through, to know the basics, is something that is possible for anyone. So one having the determination to want to learn, and to have the confidence to want to speak without thinking, hey, I'll make a mistake or something like that. Because indeed, if you want to be perfect, then you cannot speak. But just let it flow. And one thing that I like is that Finns appreciate the fact that you put the effort to speak. Hence, they give you the necessary support you need. So even when you say something and it's not in the right way, they will say it in the right way without making you feel bad. They will tell you, they will teach you how to say it correctly.
Yeah.
And they don't make fun of you. That hey, you are not pronouncing it well or something. The most important thing is they understand what you mean, and when they understand the context, life becomes easier. So I think the most important thing is the willingness to speak. The willingness to learn and the willingness to speak.
I think those are gems, right? Right there, the willingness to learn and the willingness and confidence to speak when you have learned. And I think that those are very good gems, because a lot of, as you said, people become blocked by the fear. Oh, it's so hard. So now I'm just going to put myself in a state of mind that it's tough to learn, and I don't want to use it because it's embarrassing then when I make mistakes. But I have a similar experience. I also had that motivation, and I also kind of like took those chances to speak. And my experience, similarly to yours, is that Finns are not really, they are more, as you say, happy that you're making the effort.
Indeed.
And they're very supportive when they see you making the effort. And I think that in a similar way also, I learned most of my Finnish at work. And talking about work, so your first job, what did you start working with, and what was the lay of the land in terms of diversity in that job environment?
Okay, so let's say, professional wise, right?
Yep.
So let's say when I started climbing the journey professionally, so I had the internship, which is the mandatory internship in the integration program at my alma mater, which is FAMC. So I spoke to them that, hey, I need this opportunity to intern, and they created a portfolio for me. So I worked with the international office and the marketing department. So what they did was, the instructions of the work is English, but speaking to me is in Finnish, so I can learn. So they try to really make the work very flexible for me, because they understand that, hey, I just learned Finnish in just 7 months. It would be hard to really understand programs more in Finnish. It would be hard, so they made it flexible, and I was getting it. So then I then began to have that kind of we call it the Tio Alama, so understanding, having that kind of understanding in the work setting. Having the confidence to be using the language was something which I think my supervisor really appreciated. And I always learn new words. And then in Kaupakamari, actually, almost everything was either in Swedish or Finnish, Finnish and Swedish.
Okay.
And, they say that you get to realize your strength when strength is the only option you have.
Exactly.
So in Kaupakamari, yes, we actually, it was a very great moment for me that I could use Finnish language every day, and they also gave me the necessary support that I needed. So that really played a role.
That's good. It's nice to hear that they had already kind of thought about this, because the fact that you land in an organization that has already thought about some of the support structures that you might need as you grow into your professional self in a different environment, a Finnish environment, is very important. I think this is one of the key things that I think organizations sometimes miss out on good talent, because they might assume that, because time is money, if we spend, this is going to take too much time for us to do all of these things to get a good talent. But in Kaupakamari, you also had Swedish. Do you speak Swedish as well?
No, actually, okay. My wife actually, she learned nursing in Swedish, so she speaks Swedish. And our children, actually, we have decided that they attend the Swedish daycare. So they mix this. They of course their primary language is our mother tongue, but they speak Swedish and then Finnish as well, and English. So they are multilingual in a sense. But I don't speak Swedish, not yet. But I try to get some words.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Similar experience. I have kids that speak Swedish. I speak a bit of Swedish. We use English and all of this. So it's good to hear that that with the diversity of languages in Finland as well, us as migrants are adopting all of the languages that are available and still also keeping our own mother tongues, which I think is very central.
Indeed.
Now, as we move forward, you've started your work life and you've been very, very visible on social media, creating this brand of yourself as a professional, as a barrier breaker, as a challenger of all of the norms, and really kind of like breaking through into spaces that a lot of people struggle to get into. How was that journey for you?
Well, it's an intermittent process, and then learning from the little details. I always give props to my time at Kaupakamari, the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is an institution that is an umbrella for all the companies, and we have events where we bring all these top industry players together and so on. And especially my then director, who is now the CEO, Paula Erkila. Whatever she does, I really watch that, because of course she influences, she networks, and the way she does that, although she won't tell me directly this is how I do it, but I was learning actually from her. So then, coupled with understanding the Finnish culture, then I started using those means to network with people first of all, then networking with them in the right sense. That is what a lot of people miss. As in, people often network transactionally, which actually defeats the purpose. But actually, networking with that intrinsic and genuine motivation is always something that is valuable. So that was what I was doing. More so, I realized that, hey, LinkedIn is a platform where I could share my story that can resonate with others, then to tell people that, hey, it is possible when you put enough effort. And then through getting other opportunities, I started sharing that, hey, this is what I did to get here. Perhaps when you also do that, it could also create an opportunity for you. So intrinsically sharing my story and having the willingness to help is something that I believe has given me that kind of visibility, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then also, it has also created a lot of opportunities for me to become attractive to employers to some extent.
Exactly.
And also, I mean, having personal gigs that I undertake.
Yeah.
And yes, so this is all I could say for on that aspect.
Yeah, I remember the first time we actually had a conversation. It was online. I was still working for the city of Tampere, and I think you were in the phase of, doing your thing there, and you had already built a lot of things, and you were now kind of also mapping the network of other migrants that are doing similar things in different places. And I really appreciated that first conversation because I remember you explaining how you were doing your thing, and I was saying we were talking about social hacking our way through integration.
Absolutely.
And talking about how, especially when you have leadership that is understanding, when you have teammates that are understanding, that as you go through challenges along the way, you always have the kind of allies that are not only willing to solve that challenge for you, but then that challenge is solved potentially for the next person that you would keep the door open for. So in that sense, what kind of challenges do you feel were in the beginning that you may have played a role in figuring out within organizations so that the people that come after you wouldn't have to face those similar challenges?
Well, interesting question here. So every organization has its culture, and the culture could be very okay, but the implementation is then is then dependent on the individual. So let's say like let me actually limit that to the recruitment processes. So there has been like unconscious bias in the I wouldn't say all organizations, in some organizations, which then becomes a challenge or a barrier to people with international backgrounds to penetrate, right? So then what we used to advocate for is to have like this kind of trainings, HR training, line managers, in terms of actually HR doesn't hire. They don't make that decision to say, hey, we have selected you or hired you. The line manager is the team leader or the one in charge of the manager in charge of that business who hire. He may not be too involved in the technicalities in HR. So these things could play a role. So they need that training to understand that, hey, because they are business as usual. So he's always in a hurry to pick the one who he feels he can easily work with and can deliver results. But so then it affects internationals because they could say, okay, cultural fits, those kind of things. So if we were advocating that HR could do those things, like give diversity training, and then trainings on unconscious biases. More so, especially when I was working in Kapa Kamari, my role was what we call I was working on a project called Palka Anwari Company. And this time around, it was also advocating for hiring international students for, as training. So we were having a lot of kind of, we involved or maybe we participated in a lot of fora to speak to key stakeholders who are industry players. And I mean, from that era, I could see there were a lot of changes in some of the companies, although it is not as rapid as we may want. You could see that Takura, you are an example. You know what I'm talking about. In the last 10 years, let's say in the last 11, 15 years, compared to now,
it's a big difference.
You could see there is a difference.
Yeah.
Just that I know we are in a hurry, but sometimes depending on every country, changes takes time, and Finland is that kind of country who changes in a slower pace. Hence, all I do tell people like me is we need to put the extra efforts, like learn the language, understanding the culture and know how to approach people. Learn the language to boost your chances, network with the right people to gain visibility, and then go beyond just applying with CV and cover letter to actually validate your value in various means, just like what I was showing you the last time. So these are some of the things that can actually create more opportunity for us.
And that's a recurring theme that has been popping up in these podcast series is this idea that one must not only be satisfied with the idea that I can just come in and show my CV and be like, but I'm enough. That how do you sell that added value that you bring to a company, despite some of the maybe what could be considered challenges by hiring internationals? And I think that it's a good point that you raise that, because this selling of self and this identification of this added value that you bring, that is very much a task that involves a lot of research and a lot of personal work and a lot of how have you so far been in this space as you try to get more internationals and more diversity within organizations? How are you preparing people for this added value angle towards passing towards their professional life?
Okay, I always advocate something by setting an example, right? Okay, so what do I mean by value validated projects or value validated? Yeah, let's say validated project. So it just means that creating so creating something tangible to solve a problem, either to your network or your potential employer. I now work as the project manager for the spouse program. When the application was opened in June, right? Before I applied, just before I applied, what I did was I read the job requirements and understood what it means, why they actually want to hire for the role or the project manager for the role. When you understand this, then you begin to think, then what exactly is the problem? Then I called the hiring manager and I asked her, what exactly is the problem and why are you hiring this person for this job? Oh, we want him or her to do this and do that because now we are changing the focus and want to do this. What did I do? I picked the phone. Sorry, first I researched. I looked at, or I reached out to people I know who are spouses in the Vasa region. I asked them, what are your challenges you face as spouses when you come here? And they told me. I did it like Google this Google survey. I've forgotten the name.
Yeah.
Forgive me. So I did that survey, gathered the results. Then I called, I reached out to Helsinki spouse program, asked them what they are doing and what has. Then I also realized that, hey, this project manager will need to also create a career concept. I reached out to Expo Career Club. Then I gathered all my facts.
Yeah.
Then I said, okay, this is maybe these are the challenges, these are what others are doing, and this is how they can improve this. And then looking at that, this is what I think will benefit the spouse program.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So I created a 10-slide deck. Fortunately, I actually I got invited for an interview, right? And in the email they said, okay, when you are coming, please try to prepare a slide or maybe prepare a presentation to justify how you will do this. And already I had done that. So because I had done that, when I got to the interview and we started the interview process and it got to the presentation, the moment I opened my PowerPoint, all of them were shocked. They said no one has actually done this. You see? Yeah. So what am I doing? I have validated my value and it has given me an edge over my competition already. You see? So like fast forward, when I was given that I was I was hired. And I was having my first meeting with my boss and the colleagues, the panel who actually hired me. The first question I asked my boss, why did you hire me?
Okay.
And you know what I said? I said, look, man, the truth is a lot of people applied. Of course, we have seen your work on LinkedIn. You've demonstrated this and that. I mean, you have a good attitude, which we have heard. But what actually convinced me it's your presentation.
Mm.
So I validated my value, my competence to her.
Yeah.
So after knocking, maybe I could knock people out with my personality, my personal brand and so on.
Yeah.
But as an international, let me be very honest to you. If you are competing with locals, it's like fighting a boxing match.
Yeah.
Don't go to 12th round and close. Knock him out at 11. It's competition. It's true.
Yeah.
Because Takura, when we are applying for jobs, 100 people apply for a role. So whatever angle you take to beat your competitor, to become an extraordinary in the process, do it.
Exactly.
And this is what a lot of people are not putting, the effort a lot of people are not putting. And it takes time. You need to understand how things work to be able to do that. And you also, so I would say, in simple terms, job search is job in itself.
Okay.
So if you don't treat it as a job and you want to be just throwing your CV and cover letters around, you will get that result of rejection. And Finland is a highly networked place, and you have to prove yourself beyond just
beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And this is great to hear, because I think all of the other people that have sat in that chair for this series have been describing similar things. I myself did similar things, and the other interviewees too. So it's good, because this is definitely something that seems to be working. I mean, this is very. But now that we you, me, the other interviews that have sat in that chair, the other people that are reading, that are hearing this podcast, that are in different organizations, in different offices, in positions where they can make impact. How do we as a community start making sure that the doors that we break open stay open for other internationals?
We have to have the willingness to help. I have been doing this for a long time through many means. As you can tell on my social media, I use that as a platform to tell job seekers, especially international job seekers with international background, on how they can improve their chances. That's what I've been doing. Sometimes I team up with other people who are doing well in the industry. Just like last autumn, I partnered with Rebecca Gotta, who is a talent acquisition specialist, who is a German, originally from Germany, and then Kamila Sultanova. And we talked about how you can actually adequately network in Finland and then build relationship. So we are actually doing this to create the awareness, because I believe I may not be able to hold your hand and give you a job, but information is the right information is the key to success. And I need to actually hit on this. We often, sometimes, or some of us do not pay attention to information that is given to us. So we feel the information we get is not helpful. But if you take a critical look, or a critical look to what is said, and you take it seriously, it could be a way to opening more doors. For me, a lot of doors were opened to me just because of the little information that I had, and that information gave me an edge over others. So actually, utilizing or leveraging on that information is what got me here.
Yeah.
So if we don't have that mindset of utilizing the little details we have, things become very difficult for us.
Yeah.
So in my way, I help sharing important information or tips. More so, I try to collaborate with others to do a webinar. Then aside that, there are other people that I've recommended to people who can get them opportunities. And it's not even limited to internationals. Even friends, I do for. For me, I don't care. But I am willing to help because people help me get here.
Exactly.
So whether you are a local or you are an international, you are highly welcome. However, of course, since international need this more, I do focus giving them the necessary help that I can. But I also believe that what we are doing now is something that is it's a good thing. I mean, spreading the word, using our stories to inspire others, and then we will continue to do this to create value for people.
I think that's great. And maybe to close off, if we could just maybe comment on what do you think is the way forward for organizations to start opening up more to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. What would be the gem that you would throw out there for organizations?
Have an open mindset. Because the mindset, everything starts with the mindset. If you see internationals as value, you'll create the necessary or enabling environment to, utilize their talent. Okay, I'm not doing an advert here, but I'm just using Danfoss as an example. You know, in the factory side, it's predominantly Finnish, and it's hard to penetrate as an international. But let's say for the past years, or the last few months or years, Danfoss has actually broken that barrier and said, okay, hey, we are trying to, although it's a factory side, we are trying to create an opportunity for international. We can make it English so that internationals can penetrate, and also create an enabling environment for them to actually learn the Finnish whilst working on the job. And then also create an environment where the Finns and the international school have so they meet themselves in the middle. So with this kind of willingness, it starts from the open mindset, and then the willingness to act. So even using Danfoss, for example, speaks a lot. So I believe with this, we can tap into the talents we have here who are from international backgrounds.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This has been a very insightful conversation, and I'm sure, all of the listeners have a lot to take away from this conversation. I look forward to doing this again soon. It shouldn't be another 5-6 years before we have our next conversation. Thank you, man.
Listen, thank you very much. Yes, and I'm happy to share this. And just follow us on LinkedIn. We try as much as we can to share the best practices or what we believe could enhance your career realization or even succeeding here in Finland. So I'm happy to have shared this with you, and then I'm happy to be here, Takura.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.